Good evening, everybody. This is Tuesday, January 26, 2021, and I will call this meeting to order and ask our city clerk to please call roll.
Commissioner Galt,
Present.
Commissioner Guess,
Present.
Commissioner Henderson,
Present.
Commissioner Wilson,
Present.
Mayor Bray.
Present. So I will now ask Commissioner Henderson to lead us in the invocation.
Will you bow with me, please? Father in heaven, we come into your presence, and again, we are grateful for this day, and we're grateful, God, for this opportunity that you've given us. We always pray, oh God, that as we meet, that your presence will be felt. We pray, oh God, that everything that we say and everything that we do will benefit the people and the citizens of Paducah. But we pray, oh God, that you will be glorified. We pray that you'll bless every person on this Zoom meeting who's watching. We pray, God, that you'll bless Paducah. We pray, oh God, specifically that you'll bless us as mayor and commissioners of God, that we might be attuned to you. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Henderson. Please stand with us as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
City Manager, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda tonight?
No, Mr. Mayor, there are no additions or deletions.
Okay, so we'll move to the consent agenda. And just as a reminder, the items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member requests that, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. The city clerk will read the items recommended for approval. City clerk, would you read the items on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, if you permit me, we do have some presentations tonight. We have Representative Bridges and Senator Carroll.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, that's my mistake. Second meeting, I blew it. My apologies, sorry. I was all ready and everything too, so.
Okay.
We do have two distinguished guests tonight, Senator Carroll and Representative Randy Bridges. And I'll ask Senator Carroll to start off. First of all, I'll just tell everybody a little bit about him. He represents our 2nd district, which includes McCracken, Ballard, and Marshall counties. He is the chair of the Budget Review Subcommittee on Justice and Judiciary. He is also the new vice chairman of the Senate Standing Committee on Judiciary, and he is in his 2nd term. He served 24 years in our own Paducah Police Department, retiring as an assistant chief in 2010, and immediately thereafter was named president and CEO of Easter Seals, West Kentucky, a position he still holds today. My apologies, Senator Carroll, for skipping over you.
Mayor, that's not a problem at all. And it is an honor to be here tonight, and it's good to see some new yet familiar faces on the City Commission, and want to congratulate all of you on being elected, and I look forward to working with you over the years to come. This session has been a very unusual session so far, and that's putting it mildly. And really, the main story about this session is the session and the process itself. And we have had to make many adjustments to facilitate, dealing with the pandemic at hand. And it's really had an impact on what we're doing, and has really been the primary focus of everything that we're doing. So we have already completed 8 days of the session with the first segment, which was extended a few days to allow some of the priority legislation to get through. And really with this first segment, we spent much of our time passing legislation that we hope will restore the balance of power in Frankfort. As most of you all are aware, the current law in dealing with declared emergencies and the power of the chief executive during a declared emergency was never meant to cover a pandemic. The current law was meant to cover things like earthquakes, tornadoes, that are short-lived emergencies. And so some of the legislation that we have passed during the first 8 days specifically deals with those things and put some parameters on the governor's authority and would require him to basically call us back in if there was an emergency, declaration of emergency extended past 30 days, and some other provisions involved in that. But so we got through several of those bills. We still have some priority bills left. Probably the most significant of those will be a bill that we'll put to a constitutional vote, which means the people will make this decision as to whether or not the legislature has the ability to call ourselves back into session. Right now, the only way we can come back into session is if the governor himself or herself actually calls us in. But if the bill that's going to be proposed from the House should pass, and it will be put on the ballot, and we will have the ability to call ourselves back into session. With that being said, and getting some of those issues addressed, still lots of problems that we're dealing with in relation to the pandemic. And one at the top of the list is the unemployment insurance issues. We still have, I saw some numbers yesterday that are about 40,000 claims that are claims that aren't being contested, which means that the total number of claims still is above 80-something thousand people, 80-something thousand claims that the state is still processing. And at this point, I still get messages from people who filed back in March that have yet to have their claims settled on unemployment. And so some significant issues in that area that we're dealing with and trying to look into whatever we can do as a legislative body to help that process. The state has hired a firm several months ago that came in to help with these issues, but it doesn't seem that progress is being made, and people are struggling. Often messages of desperation from people at this point. So we hope that gets addressed at some point, that those the numbers are reduced, and we can get these claims paid. And an issue that comes along with that is almost $1 billion loan that was taken out to cover to build up the trust fund, unemployment trust fund in the state. And we are hopeful that some of the CARES money, some of the federal dollars, will be used to pay off some of that debt. However, whatever's remaining, it will be put on businesses who will pay increased rates to replenish that fund. So that's something that will get a lot of attention during the remainder of the session. Businesses are struggling right now. They really don't need to have additional burdens placed on them. So we will be addressing those types of things. Something I also learned that, and Mayor, you're probably familiar with this, that there has been several $1 million passed for local government entities to distribute to help out with utility bill payments for residents. And my understanding is that a jurisdiction can apply for up to $200,000 of these funds. And so I know a lot of people are struggling in that area, and we hope that will be a help. The issues that are going to be immediate as we get back into session is obviously the budget. This process for this budget, and as most people are aware, our state budget is a 2-year budget. Last year, because of the COVID onslaught, we decided to do a 1-year budget, and therefore we'll be doing the second year during the short session, which is very unusual. And because of that, we have changed the system where we won't have the normal meetings that we have. And basically the budget was streamlined through the House, through the Senate, and then it goes to a conference committee where leadership and budget leaders from the House and Senate will be meeting, and that will start tomorrow to basically finalize the budget. And then once we get back to Frankfort next week, then it will go through the process of review and voting in the House and Senate. So a very unusual process. And I know that there have been a lot of requests. I'm still getting requests daily for input on the budget and for needs that people have. The governor's budget, there was a lot of funds that were given away and a lot of extra things. But I think you're going to find that the budget that the legislature proposes is going to be a very conservative and a very flat line budget, basically based on the budget that we passed last year. It is our opinion that we do not know what the days and months ahead will hold, and we need to be very cautious about that. So you will see any excess funds will be geared towards the Budget Reserve Trust Fund, so we can deal with whatever emergency may arise or unforeseen circumstances that may arise in the months to come. So there are a lot of needs out there, but I just don't really think that there will be many adjustments made in the budget. And I know with a lot of the chambers across the state and the state chamber, infrastructure has been a big issue, and specifically the fuel tax. I honestly don't anticipate that anything will be done on that. I know there has been some conversation about possible ways for a fair user fee for hybrid vehicles or fully electric vehicles, that we do not receive any type of revenue to support our highways from their use. So that's something that's being looked at, and as far as the the infrastructure side, but rest assured we understand the importance of the infrastructure in our state, and that will continue to be a priority. The pension system, obviously there'll be some more conversations about that. I think the main focus on pensions, if anything is done this session, will be mainly on the teachers' retirement system, and possibly making some changes to that for new employees coming in. But still a lot of discussion to be had as far as that goes. Some other topics that are getting a lot of attention is the historical racing in Kentucky. You may have heard the Supreme Court overruled or ruled against historic racing, and therefore shutting it down in the state. So there is a movement to pass laws to get that going again for our horse racing industry, to support that. And that has gotten a lot of attention. Locally, some of the issues that we've dealt with, the Asian carp issue, the Cabinet for Health and Family Services has placed a new fee on food processors, which means that our processors of the Asian carp in the area have a new fee put on them. We're looking at that, possibly trying to get them exempt. The state is already supplementing fishermen for the harvest of Asian carp in our lakes area, which is crucial to tourism in our area. So that's something that we're looking at, and also looking at tourism as a whole in our state, which has suffered over the past year, and looking for what we can do to make that better, to perhaps get that more stable. But Mayor, there are a lot of issues that we're dealing with, but the problem with it is we only have 22 days left in this session. And so it's going to be very difficult to get many pieces of legislation through. We are limited in committee meetings that we can have. They are limited to 1 hour when we do have them. So obviously the number of bills will be dramatically reduced. And on an individual basis, if a legislator is able to get 1 or 2 bills through this session, then that will be a success for that legislator. And that's kind of where we are right now, and the struggles that we have. And I'm still getting emails, messages every day on various pieces of legislation that have been filed. And I would encourage the residents of Paducah to do that. If you have strong feelings about legislation that you're hearing about, please contact myself, Representative Rudy, Representative Bridges. And, we do appreciate the input. It helps us as we move forward through the session.
Thank you, Senator Carroll. These are trying times, and COVID makes it even more challenging. It seems like in all aspects, whether it be the length of a meeting, not being able to look somebody in the eye face to face with a meeting. We're all in these Zoom meetings. They're not, they're better than a phone call, but they're not as effective as face to face. So everything is is challenging right now, but we certainly do appreciate your advocacy. And I think I can speak on behalf of the entire commission that we look forward to working with you.
Yeah.
So,
Sir, I appreciate that very much. And I stay in close contact with the League of Cities. JD Cheney is one that I communicate with often and try to stay abreast of the concerns of cities throughout the state. And I'm always interested in locally on what the concerns are. And I would encourage you and the members of the commission, city manager, if there are needs or suggestions or concerns that you have during the session, please contact me, and I'll do what I can to address those issues.
thank you. I have a meeting. I have a meeting with Mr. Cheney tomorrow, actually. So, so I'm definitely going to take you up on that advice. So, thank you, Senator Carroll. Representative Bridges, Representative Randy Bridges. I want to introduce him to the commission. I think most of us know him pretty well, but Randy represents the 3rd district that includes the city of Paducah and parts of McCracken County. He currently serves as the vice chair of the House Transportation Committee and a member of the House Appropriations and Revenue Committee. I believe that's a new assignment. He is in his 2nd term. He is a partner with Remax Realty. He's born and raised here in Western Kentucky with all of us. He's also served on numerous professional boards, charitable organizations, including most recently as president of our Rotary Club. Representative Bridges, I offer you my apologies as well for skipping over you early in the meeting. So please give me a pass. You're me. You're muted, Representative Bridges.
I said, you owe me no apologies. It's my gratitude that Danny got to go first. So I just want to say ditto. This is Danny and I's 2nd Zoom meeting today, and I believe I talked more than he did in the first one. So I got to give him time back. But no, it's an interesting session. I mean, everything Danny told you is just dead on. You know, the unemployment issue, and we did hear a rosy outcome of last year on the budget from the governor, but there are a few misnomers out there that I just want to clarify, and I think Danny would agree. First is we had a lot of one-time money that will not be coming back, and that's what helped us show a supposed excess in the budget. I think it's about 600 million or so, but there's a lot of things that are unknown. With unemployment, Danny mentioned we've still got 40,000 claims out there that are in limbo that have not been accounted for that should be paid. When you do that, in our last A&R meeting, and I think Danny's on A&R in the Senate too, and they left us with questions, and my question was, on these unemployment claims that are outstanding, have they been considered in the budget process, and is that debt being considered? And the first answer we got to that was forthcoming, is what they put on as their answer. And then the second one we got was no, they have not been considered, and there's a minimum of $300 million of debt still out there that's not on the books. So you know, with the one-time money we received last year that no guarantee what it's going to be, and with that still outstanding debt that's not even show it, we're in a tight situation. And what Danny said, I agree. You know, we don't have a definite of where the budget's going to be till after the conference committee is settled, but my suspicion is we will stay on a pretty flat line, conservative base, more of a continuation of what we had last year. There's just too many unknown questions. You know, is the pandemic over? When will it be over? Will there be a new strain or a revised strain come through? Will the vaccines be productive and effective? And there's no answers to those. And with those unknowns, there's still a big unknown out there that we don't know what the costs are going to be. So we've got to be very, very, my feeling is to be very conservative in this process. And, you know, so just to let you know where I think both the House and the Senate are on this is that we want to make sure we leave Kentucky in as good a shape as we can at the end of this year, and to do so, I really think this is going to be the right process. But there's a lot of other things. Danny covered most of the bases, and it's good to be up there with someone that, if we got a question going on in the Senate, I can pick up the phone and call him, or we'll be texting when we're in session, asking different things. And you've got a strong team from down here with Stephen Rudy as the floor leader on the House side. It's encouraging. So I'd rather open it up to questions to you guys and see what you have to say, because I just have to echo what Danny said, and he did an excellent job of covering the overview of what we're facing.
My fellow commissioners, are there any questions or comments for either Senator Carroll or Representative Bridges?
Don't have any.
Danny kind of covered the one I was kind of curious about, the gas tax, but
There is a bill that's laying on a desk to be presented to that, but I think it's going to have to be a nonpartisan effort with the executive branch coming alongside the legislative branch to move that forward. And at this point, there have been some mentions in meetings, but nothing directly. And until that happens, I'll be honest with you, I don't see it being filed. It's just the bottom line. No one wants to be put in a situation where the other one's accused of raising taxes. That's the politics of it. And I may be too blunt about that, but I know the olive leaf has been extended to the executive branch to say, hey, if you want to do this in joint fashion, we're glad to do it. But there's been no response on that, just on the House side anyway. I can't speak for the Senate, but I have seen a bill out there. It's very moderate. I have people that I know very close, actually related to, that's in the Petroleum Marketers Association, and there's been discussions there. I've been involved in them, and if one comes up, they're not going to fight it. They understand the need for it. So, and that's usually the biggest opponent. So the groundwork's laid, and it's been laid for, a while, over the last session to prepare for this. But, it's like two gunslingers out there. Neither one of them's willing to draw first, I would say. I don't know. Maybe Danny can speak more to that, but that's just brutal honesty with you guys so that you know what's going on. But, it's needed. And the big issue, and Danny mentioned it, was the addressing the eco-efficient electric cars. And, our road system's been set up on a usage-based tax that I feel like is fair. And right now they're paying zero. But the problem is you're going to face that there's going to be claims that that's being punitive for trying to help the environment, and it's going to be a punitive tax. So, if any of you have any great wisdom on how to address that or how to better form that, I know I'm open, and I see Danny laughing. I think he'd be open to those suggestions too.
Yeah, Commissioner Guest, there is some support for increasing the fuel tax in the Senate, and where we are as a state with natural gas prices being so cheap. If we're ever going to do it, I think this is the time. And I know our counties are especially feeling the pressure of needing additional funds to repair roads. And it comes a point that it truly does turn into a safety issue, not to mention as a driver for our economy that we need a strong infrastructure. Business, industry looking to move to our state, they look at those things. So we understand, and I think probably next year it will get a lot of consideration. But this session with the hardships that people are already undergoing, it's very difficult to put additional strains on our families at this point. And I think that's probably going to be the consensus, at least in the Senate. And again, I just honestly don't see any movement in that this session.
I have a question. Of course, both of you guys know where I stand on the infrastructure. I've communicated that with you because I know it's very important for economic development, for tourism, for safety, for all of those issues. So, you know, I support that. But I also wanted to ask you about Senate Bill 5, which is the legal liability protection for businesses and governments and schools, those types from lawsuits related to COVID-19. Do you see that? I know Senator Stivers has already testified about it before a Senate committee. Do you see any movement on that to protect us?
I do. And the day he presented on that, it was more for information. And I think at that point, he was still seeking input. I think there were some shortcomings in the bill itself. And I think that those have been worked out. And I fully expect the first week we're back that there will be some movement on that piece of legislation. That's one of the, it obviously is Senate Bill 5. It is a priority in the Senate, and I know it is in the House also. We have got a lot of businesses and other entities within the state that are fearful that the wrong decision could cost them a lot of money in liability charges. And I feel that in my other role here at Easter Seals, and you're taking care of families' most prized possession in the world. So it's something we take very seriously. And really what we're looking for in that legislation is to give a level of coverage where there is some immunity, as long as the entity is following the guidelines established. So like a child care center, the regulations that have come down, as long as we are following those, then we would be covered under the immunity. And that's the primary purpose of the bill. But we need to look at it from all angles and make sure it's sound and it's doing exactly what it's supposed to, and it's not too overreaching, and it allows ensuring that there is a certain level of precaution being taken, and it's all done properly, and that we're not giving people a free ride for negligence just because of what's going on. So it's that balance, I think, that Senate President's trying to come to, and I think that will move, and I fully expect that piece of legislation will be passed.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess
I can tell you that I've actually talked to the KJA, the Kentucky Trial Lawyers Association, and they are good with it. And very seldom do you get those two lining up, and they're comfortable with it too. So I agree with Danny that I think we'll see that move forward.
Well, the last thing I was going to mention, of course, we work with both of you all very, very closely. You all are our local advocates. The state government, state funding is so important to us. So we have to work with and through you. We've got that $5 million sitting out there, for the airport that is critical to us. We're coming down to the wire now, for funding for the airport. We've had some meetings this week. We're getting ready to start a fundraising campaign, I think, in the next few months in the community to try to make sure that we have our funding lined up. But the state funding is critical to us, and I know it's 6 o'clock. I know it's planned. I know it's out there, but it's very important to us. So I just want to thank both of you for being on the commission and commission meeting, and if no one else has a comment, Stephanie Suazo, do you have your hand raised? I guess not. Okay.
And Mayor, I do want to add to that comment you just made. I just spoke to Dennis today, and I have put a request in for the budget. We were able to put requests in, but we're not having those in-person meetings that we usually do. But I did put a request in for additional funds on top of the 5 million that the governor has committed. And Randy and all of us agree of the critical nature of getting that project completed at the airport, not just for Paducah, McCracken County, but for our entire region. So we are taking that seriously. And I'm not optimistic that we will get additional funding, but I do want the commission to know that I have requested that as part of the Senate's presentation as they go into conference committee. So I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that, and we do understand the importance of that project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if there are no further comments, I finally will correctly move to the consent agenda. And I'll kind of go through this again. Everybody's smiling at me out there. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. And there will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. The city clerk will read the items recommended for approval. City clerk, would you please read those items?
Approve minutes for the January 12th, 2021 Paducah Board of Commissioners meeting. Receive and file documents. Personnel actions. A municipal order authorizing the purchase of rollout containers, lids, and additional replacement parts from Toter Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $75,000 for the Public Works Solid Waste Division. A municipal order amending the fiscal year 2020 through 2021 position and pay schedule for the full-time employees of the City of Paducah, Kentucky.
Second.
So
Move.
do we have a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay, I'll ask the city clerk to call roll then.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Guess,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Bray.
Aye. Okay, with that, we'll move. We have a couple of board appointments for tonight. So first of all, I ask the city clerk to read the first one.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners approve the action of Mayor Bray in the appointment of Randy DeHart to the Commissioners of Waterworks to replace Roger Truitt, whose term has expired. Said term shall expire January 6th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this one? Please call roll, city clerk.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Guess,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Bray.
Aye. Now I'll ask the city clerk to read the second board appointment.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to approve the action of Mayor Bray in the appointment of Mike Sims to the Paducah McCracken County Riverport Authority to replace Billy Poindexter Jr., whose term has expired. Said term shall expire September 26th, 2023.
Second.
So before we call roll on this one, I'll just comment about both of these board appointments briefly. I've been systematically working with different people in the community to make board appointments. I've had a lot of discussions with a lot of people out there that have an interest in serving on boards. These are a couple of really important boards. The Paducah Waterworks is owned by the City of Paducah, and of course McCracken County Riverport is the same. Their authority board. We have a new director there that's been on board for about a year. I'm hearing really good things about what's going on there at the River Board. And again, I just can't emphasize how important these board appointments are, that we get the right people in the right spot so we can continue to have our boards and commissions move forward. So With that, if there's no other discussion, I'll ask the city clerk to call roll.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Guess,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Bray.
Aye. Okay, so we have a municipal order, and I'll ask the city clerk to read that, please.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to adopt a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order Authorizing the Mayor to Execute a Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Paducah and the Paducah Independent School District to establish a partnership to allow 3 Paducah police officers to serve as school resource officers."
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I'm going to ask Chief Laird, if you would, Chief, just briefly give us an overview of this and allow the commissioners any discussion or questions they might have.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to share with you tonight the details of the School Resource Officer project that we've been working on for a little over a year. The conversation first began between myself and Superintendent Shively late 2019. We had discussed the idea of the need for a resource officer within the middle school. And a couple of weeks after our first meeting, a grant opportunity became available through the Office of Community Oriented Policing Services, which is often referred to as the COPS program. In March of 2020, the previous City Commission approved applying for the COPS grant. And what that's for is it will help fund the hiring of 3 full-time school resource officers by providing up to $375,000 for salary and benefits over the course of 3 years. So we applied for that, like I said, early 2020, and were approved to receive the grant in July of 2020. So over the last several months, we've been working with the school system to prepare this memorandum of understanding, which is what you have before you tonight. What that does is it creates a partnership between the city and Paducah Public Schools. The MOU is a requirement of the COPS grant, and it also outlines and defines the roles and responsibilities of the program, as well as the purpose of the School Resource Officer program. It also includes the financial agreement and obligations that the city and the school district has. So just briefly to touch on the financial side of the agreement that you guys have. The COPS grant, like I said, provides funding for years 1, 2, and 3 and requires some local match. Year 4, all of the responsibility is a local match. So the way that's broken down in this agreement is Paducah Public Schools will be providing the matching dollars for the first 3 years of the program. So basically the city manages the grant, pays for stuff, and this agreement allows for the reimbursement from Paducah Public Schools to the city during the first 3 years. Year 4, the COPS grant requires full payment of salary and benefits to be upon the local agency. The agreement that's in front of you is for a 50-50 split between the city of Paducah as well as Paducah Public Schools. And that year 4 cost estimate would be right around $160,000 for the city. And it would be about $160,000 for the school system as well. So this agreement would commit the city to a 4-year grant program with the Paducah Public Schools. We'll tell you the Public School Board approved this agreement at a meeting earlier this month on January the 11th. That's a lot of information and some numbers that were thrown out there at you. The easiest way that I can kind of break it down is to say that 4 years from now, the city's responsibility is $160,000. And what that gives us is it allows us to put 3 new police officers, new hires into the school system for a period of 4 years, and it's going to cost the city about $40,000 a year if you break it down over that time period. So Superintendent Shively and I have discussed this. We feel like it's a really good opportunity for a partnership between the city as well as the city school system. And it also gives us the opportunity as a police department to provide good services for our schools. There's a level of safety and security that's out there. And we've seen that already 2 times this week at a neighboring school district where they've had a couple of what turned out to be prank phone calls, it sounds like. But the main goal out of this is just to allow us to help build stronger relationships between the police department and the kids that are in the schools.
Yeah, if I could, Chief, just to jump in there, I think what really kind of excited me about this program is that we're talking about the middle school and then having a floater between the elementary schools and the high school. So really beginning to have develop some good mentoring programs and some coaching programs for the youth, and really just kind of reaching out in the best way possible, through the youth directly in the community.
Also
Let
look
me
at
ask-
recruiting for new officers. When they see you and begin to build that relationship and trust, maybe they may want to serve our community in this role.
Yeah, I believe that the possibilities for what that program can build over the course of the 4 years is endless. And we don't know yet what impact that'll have within the community and within the school system as well.
Now, the resource officer that's at Tillman will remain at Tillman. Is that correct? So we actually will have 4 officers when we look at it, right?
That's correct. I talked with Dr. Shively last week just to confirm. That was our initial conversation was, for the size of Paducah Tillman, they only have 1 resource officer there. This will allow us, as the city manager said, to put one more at the high school, 1 at the middle school, and then 1 that will move back and forth between the elementary schools. So
I hear nothing but good things about the resource officer that's at Paducah Tillman. So I'm trusting that as you all move forward in hiring these 3 people, that they will have a passion for young people. That will be a part of their agenda, because what we don't want to see this thing turn to something that it doesn't need to be.
yeah, that's exactly right. We're not looking for somebody to go in there and be a disciplinarian in any form or fashion. This is more about building positive relationships, being a resource. The name is a school resource officer, and that's what we're looking to be, is to be another resource for the school system as well. But my understanding from Dr. Shively was that the resource officer will remain there, and so that'll give us 2 at the school.
Absolutely. That's a good deal.
And these these resource officers work for the school system. Is that correct?
The one that they have now is a school employee. This program that we're talking about tonight, they will work for the city. They will be employees of the Paducah Police Department.
Okay.
So could you rotate? I'm sorry, could you rotate different officers, or are they going to be specific? One resource officer that will be his job
At that school.
Yeah, so we have some restrictions from the COPS grant, so they have to be new hires. So what we plan to do is, if the commission approves this agreement tonight, then we'll move into the process. We're already writing job descriptions. It's basically creating a new position within the city, and we plan to advertise that to seek some folks that are already experienced out there. There's some issues through the COPS grant to where we can't use existing employees and move them into the school system. So it actually has to be new hires. That's what the grant was for, was basically to build a resource officer program.
What exactly will the police officers be doing when school is not in session? I know they're going to be.
Yeah, so different from what some other places do. Our plan, the COPS grant requires them to be full-time employees, which means they're going to need to work year-round. And so whenever summertime is here, That's when we will look to get their mandatory training requirements that they have to have. We'll be working to fill that, as well as they'll be participating in. Our goal is to stay engaged with the kids year round. And so participation in the summer lunch program that they do, as well as any safety training or things like that for the school employees, as well as the school children as well. So the goal is just to stay engaged year round with them all the time.
If there's no more questions, City Clerk, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Guess,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Bray.
Aye. Okay, so we're going to move to item 4 on the agenda, which is the adoption of ordinances. Looks like we have 4 of them on the agenda for tonight. And I would ask the city clerk to read the first one, please.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance extending the boundary of the City of Paducah, Kentucky by annexing certain property lying adjacent to the corporate limits of the City of Paducah and defining accurately the boundary of said property to be included within said corporate limits. This ordinance is summarized as follows. The City of Paducah hereby approves the final annexation of certain tracts of property contiguous to the present city limits located at 5540 Carroll Road, containing 11.029 acres.
So moved.
Sorry.
Second.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. This is the company that's moving into the industrial park. Right, Josh?
Yes, sir. Let me get my videos. They had to come my feed a while ago because of that glitch, which I apologize for, but hopefully you all can see and hear me now. But
Yeah, see you fine.
yes, thank you. Yes, that is correct. It's called Kim Station. They are currently located at 2390 John Puryear Drive, which is right off exit 11. Whenever they move into the city, they'll employ about 15 people. Their next step is to do a waiver of subdivision, which would create the lot lines, so they could conceivably be under construction about March or so.
Okay. That's great. Thank you for that.
Going to the
information.
industrial park, right? It's not inside the industrial park, it adjoins it.
Yes, just north of it. That's correct.
Okay, city, any questions? If there's no other questions, I'd ask the city clerk to call roll.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Guess,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Bray.
Aye. Okay, city clerk, please read the next ordinance.
Proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with HDR Engineering Incorporated in an amount of $266,250 for professional services for the permitting for dredging project. This ordinance is summarized as follows. This ordinance authorizes the mayor to execute a professional services agreement amount of $266,250 with HDR Engineering Incorporated for professional services related to the permitting for dredging project. This expenditure shall be charged to the dredging project number DT0047.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we talked about this at the first reading at the previous commission. I just want to make sure that there aren't any other questions. There's some questions about dredging from time to time. I want to make sure there's no other questions from commissioners. Are we all clear? Okay, city clerk, please call roll.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Guess,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Bray.
Aye. City clerk, City Clerk, please read the next ordinance.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with HDR Engineering Incorporated in an amount of $79,550 for professional services for the flat gate replacement project. This ordinance is summarized as follows. This ordinance authorizes the mayor to execute a professional services agreement in an amount of $79,550 with HDR Engineering Incorporated for professional services related to the flat gate replacement project. This expenditure shall be charged to the flat gates project number FW0010.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion by anyone? We talked about this the last time. It was the infamous flapgate replacement project. So, okay, City Clerk, please call roll.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Guess,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Bray.
Aye. Okay, City Clerk, please read the next ordinance.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a reimbursement agreement with the Paducah-McCracken County Joint Sewer Agency for reimbursement of costs associated with the video pipe inspection of all gravity drains traversing the Paducah Local Flood Protection Project. This ordinance is summarized as follows, that the City Commission does hereby authorize the mayor to execute a reimbursement agreement with the Paducah-McCracken County Joint Sewer Agency for reimbursement of costs associated with video pipe inspection of all gravity drains traversing the Paducah Local Flood Protection Project as required by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. This expenditure shall be charged to the MAP Fund Construction Materials Storm Sewer Account Number 2300-2217-53-920.
So moved.
Second.
This is obviously a second reading. We had a good explanation last time. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners? Okay, City Clerk, please call roll.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Guess,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Bray.
Aye. Thank you, City Clerk. You're very efficient at that.
Yes.
Now we'll move to comments. If Jim, our city manager, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Do we not have item 4E?
One more, Mr. Mayor.
City Clerk, please read 4E.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance providing for the closing of two alleys, one extending north off Broadway toward Jefferson Street between North Water Street and North 2nd Street, and the other extending west off North Water Street toward North 2nd Street between Broadway and Jefferson Street located at 133 Broadway and 111 North Water Street, and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents relating to same. This ordinance is summarized as follows. The City of Paducah does hereby authorize the closing of two alleys bounded by Broadway, North Water Street, Jefferson Street, and North 2nd Street located at 133 Broadway and 111 North Water Street, and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents relating to same. The City of Paducah is the only property owner in or abutting the public way, and therefore has given their written consent and notarized consent to the closing, as shall be evidenced by the adoption of this ordinance.
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments about this ordinance? City Clerk, please call roll.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Guess,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Bray.
Aye. Now we will move to the comments from our distinguished city manager. Jim, any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just excited to announce again for the board and for the viewing public that we will be doing our annual Board of Commissioners retreat coming up in February 5th and 6th. It's quickly approaching. It'll be Friday afternoon and Saturday morning over at the Convention Center. So I'm really excited about that. And we did send out a proposed agenda for that. If you guys can take a peek at that and give us back your comments and feedback, we'd love to have that. And then also, just let everybody know, we are partially reopening City Hall next Monday morning. We're seeing an influx in payment requests for our finance department. So we want to make sure we open those doors and be able to receive those people, our residents, and their payments efficiently beginning next week. So we will still remain as a appointment only throughout City Hall, but finance will be open for the public as well as fire prevention. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioners, comments? Commissioner Wilson? Nothing, anything? You're muted, I think so.
I don't think so. I don't
Okay.
think I have anything
All right.
tonight. I've already said my.
I'm not gonna go around and call on everybody. If you have a comment, please jump in there.
I'm good tonight.
Okay, I do have a couple of comments. With the City Hall reopening next week, we had a discussion today about whether or not to start in-person meetings, commission meetings. And we considered it, diligently. We talked through all the puts and takes. It's what I call it, the advantages, disadvantages. Could we pull it off? And ultimately we decided to hold off, at least for another month, and continue to watch exactly sort of what's happening with the virus, with COVID, how vaccinations begin to take place, looking at the positivity rate in Kentucky, and just make a what we felt like was a prudent decision to just hold off for a little longer. So there's nobody that wants to begin in-person meetings any more than I do. But at the same time, I think we just have to be cautious. Once we begin having those meetings, there's some logistics of only letting the right amount of people into the commission chambers, and then any overflow, managing that outside of the commission chambers. And we talked briefly about the possibility of registering people online prior to the meeting, but I'm not sure that would work out. So just wanted to let everybody here know that we did have a discussion about that, and so we'll continue that discussion going forward. And then I wanted to follow up on City Manager Arndt's comments about the strategic plan meeting. There's been some discussion among commissioners about our priorities for that meeting. We're going to rely on our city manager to take us through the prioritization of projects. That meeting certainly will have our friends from the press who will be there for that meeting. So they'll be there to observe everything that goes on. It'll be an opportunity for us to discuss, debate, and try to make informed decisions about really where to focus in the coming year for this commission, the new commission. So it's kind of an opportunity for us to really think about what we want to do, what we want to accomplish. I'm sure we'll talk about stormwater, we'll talk about the airport, we'll talk about lots of issues that are on the minds of people out there. And this is the forum where we sit down and kick those subjects around, not to mention the $20 million of bond funds that are sitting out there that everybody, not everybody, but most people are wondering, how we're going to proceed with that. So very important meeting. And that's sort of the next item on our agenda. And just wanted to make those comments. We don't have any comments from the audience tonight. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
City Clerk, call roll, please.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Guess,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Bray.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mayor. You too.